In today's video, we're going to talk all about silly season from Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Erik Jones, Kyle Larson, and some others. So stay tuned. Let's get into the video. Hey guys, Jordan here. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. And today's video is going to be a chock full of stuff to talk about. Like I mentioned, Bubba Wallace, Erik Jones. We'll even touch on Hendrick Motorsports in the 48. So there's a lot to dive into. The first big piece of news I want to talk about is Bubba Wallace and his future in the Cup Series. Obviously, as of last week, he made it official that he is no longer returning to Richard Petty Motorsports in 2021. And so that left a lot of speculation as far as where he'll go. But before I get into a little bit of that, I want to read his statement of what he shared on social media about his decision to leave Richard Petty Motorsports. Bubba Wallace says, "This was not an easy decision, as I have nothing but the utmost respect for Richard Petty and his family, but I believe it's time for someone else to take over the reins of the number 43. Thank you to the King and everyone at Richard Petty Motorsports for giving me the opportunity to start my Cup Series career. I've grown so much as a driver and as a person since joining them. We've got 9 more races together, and I hope we can finish the 20 season on a high note. Run a little bit stronger than they had previously. Definitely not a playoff caliber or winning caliber yet, but they were definitely improving, and with the new sponsors Bubba had been bringing on, especially as of late, maybe that had a little bit to do with it. Maybe it had a little bit to do with Bubba's talent. Maybe the organization as a whole was just improving. But with that all said, Bubba Wallace did decide to step away after all, and hasn't announced what his plans are for next year. So that left a lot of questions for a lot of people. Why would you leave a ride if you have no plans yet for 2021? Which makes me believe he did this knowing he has definitely a better opportunity in place. No matter what happens, he might have a couple options. Maybe there's one that he's just waiting for some dominoes to fall that we just haven't heard about. And we'll get into a little bit of that later, but I want to talk about the next part of NASCAR silly season here, and that is Daniel Suarez and Gaunt Brother Racing. And the reason I want to bring up this next is I think it has a lot to do or could possibly do a lot with Bubba Wallace and his future. As you guys know, Daniel Suarez was let go from Joe Gibbs Racing last year, and Gaunt Brothers Racing brought him on to race in the Cup Series full-time this year with Toyota. That's some pretty good backing from Toyota, not nearly the level that you probably see with Joe Gibbs and that organization, but that way Daniel Suarez still had his Cup ride, and unfortunately they haven't had too many good results. They missed the Daytona 500. I believe it was because they got involved in a wreck in the shootout, which is a huge bummer. But as of this week, Daniel Suarez put a video out telling fans that he's not going to be returning to Gaunt Brothers Racing in 2021. In fact, I'll link that tweet and video down below if you guys want to check it out. He thanked the teams, fans, sponsors for the support, and he says he has no idea what ride or where he will race in 2021. He wants to obviously be in winning equipment, so we'll see where that goes. I could definitely see Daniel Suarez being strong in the Xfinity Series again. Of course, he won the championship with Joe Gibbs Racing a few years ago. Potentially he drives a 43 car. That's a possibility. I think for any of these drivers, if I'm Richard Petty Motorsports, all these drivers we're talking about today, other than Bubba Wallace, of course, you definitely take a look at them, and the seats that are available this year are starting to wind down, hopefully here soon. And so if I'm Richard Petty Motorsports, I'm going after everybody, or at least my top contenders right now, and then go down the list. But with that said, talking about Gaunt Brothers Racing, obviously there's been the rumor of Denny Hamlin going into ownership type role, looking into ownership. So the idea, and there's been talk that that Bubba Wallace is going to go to Gaunt Brothers Racing. So that leads me to believe, with Denny Hamlin looking for sponsorship, that either one, Gaunt Brothers Racing is going to get a lot more backing from Toyota, and they've told Bubba Wallace this, or two, they are going to get the backing from Bubba Wallace, or from Toyota, sorry, and Denny Hamlin will come on as a investor with that team. And I believe, and maybe that, and with that said, Bubba Wallace believes they can be a strong organization, maybe not necessarily next year, but going forward, similar to like a Stewart Haas Racing when Tony Stewart went over to own part of Stewart Haas, that organization. And so maybe that's something that's brewing that could be happening. And as far as other teams leaving the sport in the Cup Series, we know that Germain Racing, as reported by Bob Hawkris, that they are looking to sell the team. Potential investors include, again, Denny Hamlin could be a potential opportunity. So again, going back to the Gaunt brothers situation with Bubba Wallace, if it's not the Gaunt brothers racing team, maybe Denny Hamlin is looking to see if Denny Hamlin does buy a new charter separate from Gaunt Brothers Racing and he'll go over there. That's another possibility that I could potentially see playing out. Now, again, as far as the Germain Racing charter and the team for sale, again, we just mentioned Denny Hamlin. In a previous video, we mentioned that Justin Marks is going to start a new team in 2021 called Trackhouse. They're a potential buyer for Germain Racing. And the third potential buyer for Germain Racing has been floated as Floyd Mayweather's Money Team Racing. I hope I said that right. Those three are all potential investors to and buy the charter for Germain Racing. So that's a big domino to fall. And obviously, whoever buys that charter, assuming it's a brand new team, will have to find a new driver. Or even if it's let's say it's a Gaunt Brother Racing that decides to go to a 2-car team, which I would find that very hard to believe. But they will have to look for a new driver too. So that's potentially another seat open for 2021. And the sale of Germain Racing all started when Geico announced that they were no longer going to return as a sponsor for that team in 2021. And as we know, Ty Dillon has been driving that car for the last few years. And so with them closing their doors, assuming they're not going to, the new charter team, whoever buys the charter, does not want to keep Ty Dillon, or they're too unsure of his future. We don't know where he's going to land. The biggest speculation I could think of that makes the most sense is Ty Dillon going over to RCR in a third car. Obviously, we've seen RCR run more than 2 cars for many, many years, so that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. Of course, again, with all these said, the 43 is obviously a possibility, but we haven't heard any big concrete news or rumors related to Ty Dillon and his future, so we're gonna have to stay tuned for that. And then as far as other free agents on the market looking, or team drivers looking for rides in 2021, of course we have Kyle Larson, which is also important to mention that he has the same management team as Bubba Wallace. And we haven't heard too much on the front, but Kyle Larson front here lately. Again, it's always been rumored or been speculated that Tony Stewart would love to have him in the 14 car. We know Kyle Larson comes from a dirt background, similar to Tony Stewart, and they have a lot in common. And that would obviously make a lot of sense, a good fit. So we'll see where Kyle Larson goes. If he is indeed gonna come back, but it looks like he's really trying. Again, we still haven't heard from NASCAR if he's officially been reinstated, which even now I can't believe it's taken this long to at least put out a statement or something to squash some of those rumors, rumblings, all that kind of thing. But I'm sure we'll hear something soon, I would think. I can't imagine they won't let Kyle Larson come back if he wants to in 2021 at this point. So we'll stay tuned for that. And then as far as Erik Jones, we still have no concrete news for him as well. Obviously, with the 43 car open, that's a possibility. If I am Hendrick Motorsports, that would be my top candidate at this moment. It would be crazy to me if they took on Kyle Larson as the new driver of the 48. They're a very clean organization. They obviously, Rick Hendrick is not going to necessarily want a driver to be racing outside of the Cup Series or in different series like the World of Outlaws, like Kyle Larson likes to do. So I definitely don't see him being a fit for that ride. Although if you had asked me at the beginning of the year, I definitely would have said he would have been the leading candidate. But that's not going to happen. If it does, y'all can hold me to the fire, but I just can't imagine that'll happen. But so Erik Jones, like I mentioned, I believe if I was them, I would go after Erik Jones to drive the 48 car. And then again, this is all assuming that the 48 car actually comes back with Hendrick's Motorsports next year. There was the rumor out there that they could actually shut down the 48 team, but if they do end up running the 48 team, I would be calling Erik Jones if I am Hendrick Motorsports right now. I think he's your best bet. But other than potential active rumors or rumblings of actually where Erik Jones may go, nothing's been out there. Maybe if Gaunt Brothers Racing buys the second charter or buys the charter from Germain Racing, they could potentially expand to 2 teams, and then that could potentially leave Erik Jones in the Toyota camp, which we know they've invested a lot of money into Erik Jones, and I know they probably don't want to let him go, but there's only so many seats, and so maybe this gives him the opportunity to stay at Toyota if Gaunt Brothers Racing adds a second car, or even if it's let's say Denny Hamlin buys a team and he wants to sign Erik Jones, that would keep him with Toyota, because I'm assuming I'd be shocked if whichever team Denny Hamlin does move into ownership with, assuming that's what he still wants to do, them not driving Toyota, I think Toyota would not let that happen. So we'll have to again see where that goes as far as Denny Hamlin and Toyota, and so that's where we are with Erik Jones as well. A couple other names another name to mention that's been in the free agent market. We know a few weeks back that Corey Lajoie announced he's not returning to Go Fast Racing in 2021. And we have not heard, or I have not seen or heard anything related to Corey Lajoie's future. We know he sent that note to Hendrick Motorsports, that handwritten note to Hendrick Motorsports to plead his case to drive the 48, but I think that's a long shot, and he's mentioned he knows that, but he wanted to put it out there just in case. You never know. You miss 100% of the chances you don't take. And so as far as Corey Lajoie's future and where he's going to go, there's nothing been out there that I could lead him to think that he's going to land at a specific ride. In his case, based on his experience and his accomplishments, I think the 43 car would probably be a good step for him. I don't know if Richard Petty Motorsports would necessarily want to go after him, but it would be hard to imagine that a top team like Suarez Racing or Hendrick Motorsports would go after Corey Lajoie without the record to prove it or to back it up. And so that's where we are with Corey Lajoie. So still a lot of unanswered questions. Obviously, the big one is Bubba Wallace. I think Denny Hamlin and potential ownership is a huge one as well. So we'll have to see where that plays out. Again, we have Germain Racing being sold, and the three potential owners: Kyle Larson's future, Erik Jones, Corey Lajoie. So we will definitely stay tuned. I just wanted to provide a little bit of an update. Hopefully it wasn't too all over the place, but I definitely wanted to kind of touch on things that are going on right now. Of course, when there's big news that comes up, especially with Bubba Wallace, when he finally announces his deal, and now watch him announce his deal as I'm editing this video, and I'm gonna have to totally redo it. That would be a bummer, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. And we got Daniel Suarez, and so who knows what's gonna happen to him? But the big juice to drop, I think, and then we're really gonna see things happen in silly season. We got to see Bubba Wallace, what's gonna happen to with him. The Germain Racing charter, I think, is a big one, and Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's potential ownership. When we see those big three shoes drop, I think that's when we're really going to see things move in place. So as that happens, of course, we'll cover it here on the high side. And I appreciate you guys tuning in, watching me ramble. Now, before we go, I do love sharing some odd history. So I wanted to share one odd history fact with you guys. Today's odd history fact has to do with a driver in the 1950s, and the fact goes as this: the youngest driver to compete in NASCAR's Top Series was Tommy Elliott, who competed at the Altamont Schenectady Fairgrounds. I'm probably butchering that name, but that's all right. In 1951, at the age of 15 and a half, Elliott completed over 80% of the event, but whether or not he finished is unknown. He placed 15th out of the 20 cars that day. And so Yeah, I can't remember a driver that younger than that in the NASCAR Cup Series. I did throw up an image or what looked like to be a potential image of Tommy. Hopefully that's the correct one. If not, let me know in the chat. But that was very interesting to me. Just especially back, well, I guess in the 1950s things weren't so strict, so I guess it makes a little more sense that you had someone that young racing in NASCAR's top series. But if you guys have any questions, as always, NASCAR related, make sure you put them down in the comments for future episodes. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you did, smack that like button. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe as well. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of The High Side.